So I'm Tammy Ramsey. I'm the owner of Daisy Do Right, and I am making this podcast to shine a spotlight on successful women in our community and those who make an impact. And I'm so glad to have you. And tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Allyson Bowers. I am currently the Education and Community Outreach Coordinator for Vincennes PBS. I'm a Knox County resident, and I enjoy working and living in Knox County.
That you originally graduated from Pike Central.
Yes, I am from Pike County. I graduated from Pike Central in 2009, and then from there I went to Hanover College, where I got my bachelor's degree in communication and business.
And how did you end up in Knox County?
So I knew upon graduation I wanted to get a job in public relations or television, something like that. And I applied for a lot of jobs, and I got a job at Vincennes University at the television station, which is Vincennes PBS, as a producer director. So that was like the nighttime producer director position was my first job. And then from there, that's where I met my husband. And then, so he's from Knox County. So now I live in Knox County as well.
So how did you meet your husband?
Yeah, so he's an engineer at the TV station for the TV and radio stations. And now he's the chief engineer, but he wasn't at the time. So we were coworkers, and I lived on my own in Vincennes, and he lived in Edwardsport. And so then I moved to Edwardsport after we got married, and now I live in Edwardsport.
Okay. Going back to Pike Central, because I actually went to Pike Central
yeah.
for several years. What was your favorite subject in school?
I don't know. I had a teacher, Miss Elkins, and she was kind of like, she did health and PE, and we did, it was like Project Lead the Way. And I really enjoyed her. And she went to Hanover, so she was the one that was like, hey, check out this college. But she had a class, and it was like health careers. And every week we did a report on like different health jobs. And I remember thinking like, this is where I'm going to find what I'm supposed to do. And pretty much ended up finding out I didn't want to work in healthcare, so, but it was still a fun class. And then I think sometimes learning what you don't want to do is just as important.
Yes. So what led you to communication?
Well, I went to Hanover, and I was not really sure exactly what I wanted to do, and took a communication course and really liked the professor and liked the course. And then I got involved in the student broadcasting club at school. And that's when it was like, oh man, if I work hard, I can get my own TV show. And I ended up turning that into my senior project. You have to do like a senior thesis at Hanover, and my television show that I kind of came up with. And so I was producing it, I was anchoring it, I was writing the scripts, that kind of became my senior project. Really liked that aspect in that world, and kind of transferred over into, what kind of job I wanted to have.
Okay. So if I was a child, how would you describe what you do?
Well, so my job now is, I'll call it my dream job. So, I didn't start out that way. I've been out of college now 12 years. So I've taken, I had to work my way up, but now I get to go out and be in the community a lot. And I work a lot with PBS kids, and I feel real strongly about PBS kids and PBS in general, but it's all about making sure everyone's included, and making sure everyone has access to it for free. And so I get to go out to classrooms a lot, and libraries a lot, and present. And I get to event plan all of our Kids Day events that we have at the station, and the tours that we have for TV and radio stations, and our movie nights. And so I have a kindergarten son, and I think he thinks his dad and I both go and watch PBS Kids all day at work, and then just come home. But it is a pretty fun job. So
good. So okay. So speaking to your passion about special needs advocacy and free and equitable education.
Yes.
Do you feel like that you have a really good platform where you're at?
I do now. I feel strongly about educating the public, and I can't just go around as Allyson, like educating the public. Nobody cares what I have to say, I can't just go into classrooms and say, I have some opinions, public schools let me in. But with my job, I have, you know, the wealth of PBS and PBS kids to work with and to present upon. And, the creators of these shows have so much more, background and they've built up these shows. So then all I do is take them and take them into classrooms and present them and kind of put my personal background and spin on them. And that's kind of what makes them relatable, I think. So in April was Autism Acceptance Month. And I was able to make a presentation, and it had, parts of Sesame Street and parts of a new show we have called Carl the Collector, and kind of go into classrooms and kind of just show kids. And I did grades kindergarten through second, and show them these clips, and then say like, okay, what did you notice about that? How did that make you feel? And it's kids are very observant, and they're very, they caught on really quick. And so then I would say, okay, so they didn't invite this person to play because they were different. Well, who here in this classroom is exactly the same? Nobody can raise their hand. And it's like, oh no, everybody's different. So include everybody. Everybody's different. And I think just having PBS and the resources to pull from, I'm very passionate about it. So it kind of goes hand in hand. And, for me, my son does have autism. And so it's like I'm going into his class, and he goes to North Knox, and North Knox is great and let me into almost all their classrooms. And, I got to talk to them all. But it's something I'm very passionate about. And so I care about, so I work hard. And I think it all, goes hand in hand. And I think it's fun to see then kids out in the community, and they'll say like, oh, hey, remember that time you came to talk to our class about autism? I'm yeah, good job, and just seeing them, and I think they listened, and I think they cared. And having Sesame Street clips to watch really puts it in their brain and helps them remember it more than just like somebody standing up at the front of the classroom lecturing them.
Uh-huh. I feel like there's not a 100% perfect job. If you had to tell me something that you just really don't like about yours, what would it be?
I don't know, because like for me, so I worked at this TV station, and then I left and I worked to other places, and now I'm back. And so many of the people that I worked with, because my husband worked there before, I stayed close with. So it was like coming back home. And so I get along so well with so many of my coworkers that's awesome. And I do feel passionate about my work. And I feel like I'm given a lot of freedoms to, like I have this idea, can I run with it? And 9 times out of 10, I get like, yeah, like go for it. So, I mean, you get headaches here and there, obviously I wish I made like $100,000 more a year or something, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get rich working in public media. But I'm happy where I am. And I think I get scared and nervous when there's talks of cutting off funding to, public media and, taking away state funding. The state funding's gone. Where's the national funding going? Things like that, I get concerned. But as far as that doesn't affect the relationship I have with me and my job, is a good one. So
That's great. So if we start when you first left college and just go through your job
yeah.
titles.
So yeah, I worked at, like I said, my first job was at Vincennes PBS as a producer director. And then from there, I went and actually was an academic advisor at Indiana State University. And I liked, so at my job at VU, we worked a lot with the broadcasting students, and I realized I liked working with the students and the education side of things. Basically, the only reason I left there was because I wanted a job that was during the day, because like I said, it was in the evenings. And so I was like, okay, Indiana State, I loved working there. I had a really good relationship with all my coworkers there. I liked, I was able to take master's classes at like an extremely discounted rate. And, I liked helping students plan out their future. So that's where I was getting students come in, and it was like, okay, what courses do you need to take to get where you need to be, and then I was there, I think 2 years, and then I got married. And so I was commuting back and forth basically between, Edwardsport and Terre Haute, and kind of realized like that wasn't going to be a long-term solution. And from there, I went and worked at North Knox School Corporation, and I was the transportation director. And so there, that was definitely the most stressful job that I've ever had. And just because there is, you have so many moving parts every day, and I say moving parts, literally school buses, and North Knox is such a rural area that you have to cover. Buses have to go down gravel roads, and they have to go here and they have to go there, and you get somebody that moved in way over here, well, the bus has to go pick them up now. And then just staying on top of safety regulations, and staying in compliance with the Indiana State Police for buses and the drug testing, and that was a lot. But I worked there for 5 years, and I was a big push on getting the stop arm cameras implemented, and so that was a big win in my mind, and we got those on there, so it really helped keep kids safe when they're crossing the roads and things like that. That was that time, though, that encompassed when I had my son, and then COVID as well, and so that we were shut down. I think we were only off like 2 months for COVID, and we went back, but when my son was born in 2018, he was born 3 months premature. And so he was in the NICU in Evansville for 3 months. So, and then he came home and was on oxygen and stuff. So I was off work for a long chunk of time in there. But so that I was thinking that was like the most stressful time, that couple of years when I just so happened to work at North Knox. And so then I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was. I don't know, it's probably 3 or 4 years now, but at some point I realized my son was going to be needing extra care. And we didn't know exactly what, but he was having to go to speech therapy every week and occupational therapy every week, and pretty intensive. I was having to take him to Terre Haute every week. And it was like, okay, I need to go down. I need to get a part-time job instead of a full-time job so I can take him where he needs to go. And so then I did marketing and made commercials and stuff for Sarah's Family Footwear in Vincennes. And then during my time with her, they opened up the Terre Haute location as well. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth. And I loved that job just because I love shoes. And so that's another, I enjoyed that job. And that allowed me to work and be flexible and get Barron where he needed to go and things. And then as soon as he basically started kindergarten, I was like, okay, I'm ready to re-enter full time, because he was going to go to kindergarten full time, and I knew I had the itch to work. I didn't want to work full time. I want to work full time. I have a lot of, I'll say, creativity pins up that I never had planned to be a stay-at-home mom. I enjoyed my time, but I was ready to get back to work. And so then this job this was a new position that the station had never had before, and they decided to create it because a lot of PBS stations across the country have an education person. So then it was like, wait a minute, okay, so I have a TV background, and I have this education background, both at the K through 12 level and at the college level, that I'm like, this is like my perfect, this is all kind of coming together for me. And I have built those relationships, and that's why I think it's so, North Knox isn't worried to let me come in and talk, because I work there, and so they know I'm, gonna be, I'm not gonna come in and tell kids bad things or something.
Right.
They trust that I'm going to do an okay job. And so that's pretty much my adult work history. But yeah, so now I'm here, and I think it was an extremely windy path to get where I wanted to be. But this is like, okay, if you would have told me when I graduated college in 2013, by 2025, you're going to be like firing on all cylinders, and you're going to love your job and stuff, and be like, okay, I can do it,
I'm thinking about younger women who might be thinking about your career goals going the way that you went.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the biggest challenge that I would see would be being in front of a camera.
Yeah. So I've never minded that. And I go back and I watch my college, TV show, and I'm like, I should have minded it. It was bad, but I was proud of it at the time, and it aired we had campus television, and it aired, and I would tell everybody like, oh, my TV show is going to be on at this time. And I had all my friends be guests on my show, and, it was fun. And, like I said, I don't know what I was wearing half the time. My hair was bad and, all that stuff. But I think, talking to people is something I enjoy doing. So it just kind of comes natural. And, um, I think I had zero intentions of being anywhere close to where I was, I wanted to leave the nest basically. So I was like, okay, like when I was applying for jobs, I was applying Indy, Louisville, Cincinnati. I was, and I was fully prepared to move away. And one of my college advisor, actually, she was like, okay, just so you know, like when you get a job in TV, it's going to be, it's going to be really hard to like have a normal life. You're going to have weird hours and you're going to have all this and you're going to have to really work your way to get to like a daytime schedule. And I was like, okay, like I'm fine with that, whatever. And then I started working here at the TV station at Vincennes, and I realized like, a lot of their news people and stuff worked during the day for the most part. You had to cover meetings and stuff, but it wasn't like, too bad. And then it was like, wait a minute, like, I think you kind of realize the older you get, like, maybe I don't want to live in a big city. I think I kind of like it here. I kind of like, um, if I'm going to raise a child, I think here's okay. I'd rather raise them where you know everybody and not send them to a big public school and stuff. So I think, you work different jobs and you see different places, and, because even I'd probably be okay like in Terre Haute, but even that's kind of big, as far as the school systems go, and I think that's always one of my first thoughts of like is, okay, what kind of school is going to be there for my child. And, I don't know. I think North Knox is smaller than like Pike Central was. So even there, I'm like, okay, it seems, smaller and safer and, I don't know.
Right. Okay. So what do you think has been your biggest accomplishment so far?
Oh, I don't know. I have to keep harping on the autism presentation that I did, but I was really proud of that. And I got in, I think it was 19 classrooms let me come in and present just during that month. And I think that, I don't know, that might be my biggest so far, just because I got a lot of compliments afterwards from the teachers and from, even the kids. And I thought, man, I think I've made a difference. Like I hope I did. And I think a couple of teachers have already said, like, will you come back next year? And that's a good, that's a good thing. So I think just having an idea, working really hard towards it, and then seeing it make an impact is what I'm most proud of.
So let's shift our focus to the future.
Yeah.
When you retire, whenever that is,
Yeah.
what is going to be the deciding factor for you to say you were successful?
Oh, I do harp on this a lot too. Like we go to a lot of job fairs and things for kids, and I always am a big pusher of like, I think when high schoolers these days and even kids in college think about what they want to do, they think about money only. And there's so much more to that, and every job has benefits, and whether it's going to come to you in money or other ways. But like my husband and I both get to be home every night of the week. And, I have to work a lot of Saturday events and things like that, but they're like fun things, like I'm at the library, I'm at here, I'm at there, um, I don't see it as a burden, but I think, one of the biggest benefits is, like getting to eat supper at my table with my family every night and getting to, I mean, this is silly, but like we work at VU and they have the health clinic that we go to at no cost and so many of these things. So I think if I can know that like at each step of my working adulthood and raising my child, I was happy. I think then, I think that'll be like, yeah, like what more could I ask for?
Very good. So the last question I have for you is, if I gave you $1 million today
Yeah.
and said you could spend it on any
Oof.
project that you want, but you're not going to see the results, it's an investment towards the future.
Ooh,
What would
yeah.
you invest the $1 million
Goodness,
in?
that's a hard one. I don't know. I think $1 million. And it's like, what would $1 million buy? That's a hard one too. But I think I don't know. I want to say like, so I would like do some kind of project at the library or something. Like I like some kind of public like it would circle back around to like something that was free to everybody and something that was educational for everybody. And like a museum sounds kind of cheesy, but like some kind of,
Mhm.
project that was, I think, for youth. I kind of lean towards looking out for the youth of the area, but I don't know. So some kind of loose museum project.
I don't think it sounds cheesy at all. All right, so that's all I have. Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
thank you,
sharing
Tammy.
this,
Yeah.
and hopefully we inspired someone to go into communication.
Yeah, I guess I should say if they have any questions,
Where can they reach you?
yeah, so my email address is Allyson, Allyson .Bowers, BOWERS at VINU.edu. And that would be if they had any questions about, getting into the TV or radio field, or taking a tour, or you're a teacher and you have a classroom that you want me to come present at, anything like that, just send me an email.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.